Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I finally made some progress with testing AoE damage companions. I've tested 15 of those companions which can do damage to multiple targets, area of effect. I have went and put all of the companions that are from the Elite Refinement pack. You had your Makos, you had your Xuna, you had your Sergeant Nox and also your Alphonse Nox amongst Celeste. Celeste being a healer companion, she really doesn't do much damage at all, so I'm leaving her out of here. But that means this Elite Refinement pack will have literally no value. Nobody will buy them anymore. Pretty much Cryptic Studios' losses there after they absolutely screwed Xuna over. And let's see some values. But firstly, I'd like to explain some things. It can be very hard to test these AoE companions because, this is about the closest setup we can get of having all of the dummies together. So to simulate an AoE environment, ideally I would have like 10 dummies all within the distance between this dummy and this dummy. And then you could see how much damage all of these companions could do. However, I've got to make with what I have. And so I've went and summoned the companion and had them over here. And you can see from this position, you have combat advantage on all 4 dummies. And that way you have your Abyssal Chicken and it can deal damage to all 4 with combat advantage. And that would somewhat simulate how much damage it then could deal against multiple targets. So I've done that the same with all of these other companions. Same with the Cold Iron Warrior, made sure he was stuck between this dummy and the other dummy, so that when he does this spinning strike, he'll hit both of the dummies. Unfortunately, there isn't 10 dummies between this one and that one, so he can only hit maximum of 2 targets. So it can be a little biased there, since the Abyssal Chicken, as you saw, could hit all 4 of them. Whereas spinning companions like your Cold Iron Warrior, your Black Ice Prospector, even your Air Archon, even Alphonse Nox himself, he can only hit a maximum of 2 of these dummies, as long as he's actually trying to target the dummies. You can also see he can hit 3 of them, but only with that 1 power. Otherwise, he just has his axe which he swings, and you have to make sure he's in the right position, and you can see he'll be able to hit both dummies with his at-will strike. And that's what I've had to go through. It can be very frustrating to get them positioned in the right spots. Anyway, let's get into things. So we have 15 of these companions all tested out, and I've made a document on it. So here is the document I've made up. I've made it a little bit more straightforward than the other document, with just having the name of the companion and then your DPS over here. Now I have had to add in your target count, so the amount of dummies it can actually hit, and the amount of combat advantage it has dealt, basically the uptime of how many times has it hit, and of those have they been dealing that extra combat advantage. You can see these ones have got 100%, but you can see Sergeant Nox was on 96% because he had a few hits that were hitting another dummy. And you can see the Incompass and the Succumbus is only on 45% uptime of combat advantage. And the main reason is, for some reason, when they even have combat advantage on the dummies, there's still only a small chance for the hit to deal that combat advantage damage. So let's go through each of these companions. So initially we have the Abyssal Chicken, and it was hitting all 4 targets and was about 19,000 encounter DPS. So not a whole lot there. So we go to the Air Archon. It has been nerfed, still can do bits within AoE. 21.6 thousand encounter DPS. Again, this is only against 2 targets, as you can see here with its spinning attack. Then we go to Alphonse Nox. This again is only against 2 targets, but he's got over 26,000 encounter DPS, so he's looking pretty good there. Again, making sure we have 100% flanking. Then we go to the Black Ice Prospector, which got a heavy nerf, and even in AoE, it's only dealing 9.9 thousand encounter DPS. We go to the Cold Iron Warrior, who's even less at 8.7 thousand encounter DPS. That's a rip for him. His spinning strike again can only hit 2 of those dummies. We go to the Con Artist, which could deal just over 21,000 encounter DPS. Wasn't too bad. All he has is his Wicked Strike. 100% combat advantage again. And then we have the Dedicated Squire, which did get nerfed. It had a lot more encounter DPS. This is against 3 targets, as you can see. And we got over 14,000 encounter DPS, so pretty abysmal. And we go to the Githyanki, Now, this one here is the star of the show. And if you saw my document there, you could see he's on first place. He's got 52,000 encounter DPS, and it's only against 2 of the dummies. He is a spinning companion with his spinning strike, as you can see here. I don't know why he wasn't nerfed like your Air Archon, your Cold Iron Warrior, Black Ice Prospector. Then we go to Makos. You can see he was only dealing 18,000 encounter DPS. He just has this fireball, and that's pretty much all he does. He has a few different attacks he does with it, but still not a lot of damage. Then we go to the Fiora, and it was dealing a considerable amount, 27.6 thousand encounter DPS, so not too bad. And this is again against 3 of those targets. So we go to Regus, and he was dealing even more damage, 35,000 encounter DPS. The major benefit of Regus is as soon as you summon him, he will do that Whirlwind of Blades, which is a massive hit, up to 200,000 with my statistics, and he could do that then to all of the targets. Then we go to Sergeant Nox, much like Alphonse Nox, but this time Sergeant Nox will only do 16.7 thousand encounter DPS. He did have a few hits on his Reaping Strike where he was hitting a third dummy, and that wasn't having combat advantage, and thus his flank is only on 67%. But still his DPS is not that high, so I wouldn't worry about it. Then we go to the Succubus. Now, very interesting thing here, you can see the Deadly Kiss was at a 14% combat advantage on its hits. And the reason behind this is there's some bug with it that some of its hits just can't deal that combat advantage damage, and I'm not sure why. But you can see it has a massive hit of nearly 300,000, and it also has the benefit of being able to do this kiss at the beginning of the fight and putting a debuff on those enemies so you can all deal more damage to them. It would definitely be one of the companions I would consider using in AoE. Then we go to the Wayward Wizard, and it has very nice consistent damage. It's pretty much identical to the Myskagog companion. You can see an image of it on screen here, and it has the identical power setup. So I'm assuming the Myskagog is going to do exactly the same amount of damage. Nearly 44,000 encounter DPS, but that is against 3 targets with full combat advantage against them. Then we go to Xuna, and yeah, she was absolutely nerfed to the ground, with now only having 7.6 thousand encounter DPS. As before, she was dealing up to 40,000 encounter DPS and 4 dummies. And that's it. That's all of the companions. And to see them listed out here, ranked from 1 to 15 of the ones I have tested, you can see the Githyanki is there at the top. But keep in mind, you might want to actually run with a Succubus or an Incubus just to have that actual damage debuff on them, and having the advantage of hitting as soon as they enter the fight. The Gith will take a while before he starts swinging, but when he does, he's going to absolutely massacre everything. The Wayward Wizard is going to have that extra consistent damage over time by his at will, his AoE, along with his big burst. He'll also have the advantage of slowing the enemies. He's both Myskagog and the Wayward Wizard. The Wayward Wizard you can pick up for, I believe, 2 gold, but he'll be on that grey rarity, so it'll cost a lot to get him upgraded. Otherwise, there is Regis for that nice burst damage also. Like, for example, I've already mentioned this before, in the forest in Vault of Stars, where the enemies spawn around you. That's when Regis is really great, because his Whirlwind will hit everything. Otherwise, yeah, the rest of the companions here don't really add up too much, and I wouldn't really use them. And you definitely shouldn't be using a Xuna within AoE fights anymore. There are, of course, alternative companions you could use that would buff and debuff enemies. The Succubus and the Incubus is definitely one of them, and you might want to consider running one just to buff up your party rather than having your companion just dealing more damage. It could be better that you just deal more damage yourself. So this is only 15 of the companions, and there's for sure many other companions that I haven't tested. Again, if you feel that one of the companions I haven't tested is dealing considerable more damage than any of these I have listed, feel free to message me and let me know which ones I should test. But otherwise, hopefully this is somewhat representative of the best companions for AoE damage in Neverwinter at the moment. Hopefully they don't all get nerfed as a result of making this document. If they do, it is what it is. In my opinion, they all really should just be balanced with each other. Whether they're all dealing as much damage as Xuna down there at 7,000, or they're all dealing as much damage as the Gith, either way doesn't really matter. It's better to just have balance. But I wouldn't want to really go all the way back to just using augment companions, as in my opinion I like to have a companion that can actually help me in combat, can give me actual flanking bonuses, and otherwise just deal a bit more passive damage. So that wraps it all up. I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going, and if I presented as well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. I'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.